The first body was still warm. Elias Mercer knew that before he even touched it. The man lay face down in the snow beneath a pine tree, black leather armor split across one shoulder. One gloved hand stretched toward a dropped sword. 20 feet away, Elias found the second body, then the third, and only after that did he hear the breathing. Fast, weak, terrified, Elias turned toward the enormous seat at the edge of the clearing. A young orc woman was tied to its trunk. Thick rope crossed her chest and arms, pinning her against the bark. Her dark hair was wet with melted snow. Green skin showed through torn leather armor, bruised and scratched from what looked like days of running. She stared at Elias with wide amber eyes. "Don't come closer." Elias stopped. The orc woman glanced toward the dead men scattered across the clearing. "They are not the hunters." Elias frowned. "Then who are they?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Bait." A horn sounded somewhere deep in the forest. The orc woman closed her eyes. Then she said the words that would change Elias's life. "They know you're here now." Elias did not draw his sword. That was the first thing the orc woman noticed. Most humans who saw green skin reached for steel before asking questions. Elias only studied the tree line. Another horn sounded, farther away this time, or perhaps from another direction. That bothered him. He walked toward the woman. She pulled against the ropes. "I warned you. I heard you." "Then run." Elias crouched beside one of the bodies. Black leather armor. No crest. No kingdom insignia. The dead man carried 3 knives, a crossbow, and a coil of thin silver wire. Not soldiers. Not bandits either. Professionals. Elias looked at the footprints surrounding the clearing. There were dozens, but only 3 bodies. Interesting. He stood. "What's your name?" The orc woman hesitated. "Mara." "All right, Mara. Did you kill these 3? She stared at him. "I've been tied to a tree since sunrise." "Fair point." Despite herself, Mara blinked. Elias walked behind the cedar and examined the knot. Mara watched him carefully. "You really shouldn't touch that rope." "Poisoned?" "No." "Enchanted?" "No." "Then we're making progress." He pulled a small knife from his belt. Mara's voice became urgent. "You don't understand. They left me alive for a reason." Elias placed the blade against the rope. "I assumed it wasn't kindness." "They are waiting for whoever frees me." Elias looked at her. "Then they've been waiting a long time." He cut the first rope. Mara stared. The second rope dropped into the snow. Then the third. The moment her arms were free, Mara collapsed forward. Elias caught her. She felt freezing cold. Too cold. He removed his heavy coat and wrapped it around her shoulders. Mara looked up at him, confused. "You don't even know me." "No. I could be dangerous." "You can barely stand." "That wasn't my question." Elias almost smiled. "No, it wasn't." Another horn sounded, this time much closer. Elias helped Mara to her feet. "Can you walk?" "Yes." She took one step and nearly fell. Elias raised an eyebrow. Mara glared at him. "I can walk angrily." Useful skill. He lifted her onto his back. Mara immediately protested. "Put me down." Later. "I am an Iron Blood warrior." "Congratulations." "I have killed men twice your size." "Then this must be embarrassing." For the first time in 3 days, Mara almost laughed. Then an arrow struck the cedar where Elias's head had been seconds before. His expression changed. The humor disappeared. "Hold on." And he ran. They reached Elias's cabin just before dark. It stood alone beneath a ridge, hidden among heavy pines and surrounded by traps Elias had built for wolves. At least, that was what everyone in the nearest village believed. Mara noticed something strange the moment she entered. The cabin looked ordinary. A small fireplace, a wooden table, a bed, dry herbs hanging from the ceiling. But there were no family portraits, no decorations, and the windows were positioned so that a man standing inside could see every approach to the cabin. Mara sat beside the fire while Elias boiled water. "You live alone?" "Yes." "Why?" Elias glanced at her. "People ask fewer questions in the mountains." That was not an answer. It was the one I had. Mara studied him. His hands were rough like a woodsman's. But when the arrow had struck the tree, he had not panicked. He had moved before the second shot came. Not randomly. He had chosen the one route through the forest with enough rocks and dense trees to block crossbow fire. Mara remembered every step. You've been hunted before. Elias placed a bowl of stew in front of her. Eat. Mara didn't move. Who are you? A man giving you dinner. Who are you? Elias's eyes met hers. For one brief moment, something cold appeared behind them. Then it disappeared. Someone who stopped asking questions. Mara lowered her gaze. I wish I could do that. Elias sat across from her. Who tied you to the tree? Mara's hands tightened around the bowl. The winter hounds. Elias became very still. Mara noticed. You know that name. I've heard it. That was a lie. He knew it too well. The winter hounds were not simple bounty hunters. They were trackers, kidnappers, and killers who worked for nobles wealthy enough to make people disappear. 7 years earlier, Elias had spent 6 months hunting them across the northern border. He had killed 12. There were supposed to be no survivors. Apparently, someone had lied. Mara continued. They've been following me for 9 days. Why? I stole something. Money? No. Jewels? No. Elias sighed. Please don't say a crown. Mara slowly reached inside her torn leather vest. She placed a small black stone on the table. A symbol was carved into it. Elias recognized it immediately. The royal seal of Gratha, the Orc kingdom. Elias looked at Mara again. You're not just a warrior. No. Who are you? Mara hesitated, then said quietly, King Varric was my father. Elias leaned back. There it was. The complication. Mara was not a random orc woman. She was a missing daughter of the most powerful orc king in the north. And according to every rumor Elias had heard, Princess Mara Ironblood had died 2 years ago. Her story came slowly. King Varric had ruled the orc clan for 23 years. He was harsh, proud, sometimes brutal, but he had kept the tribes united and stopped the constant border wars with human villages. Then, 6 months earlier, the king became sick. His younger brother, General Kargan, began ruling in his name. Grain disappeared. Human villages were raided. Orc soldiers who questioned orders vanished. Mara discovered why. Kargan had been poisoning the king and preparing a war. He needs humans and orcs to hate each other, Mara explained. War makes him powerful. So you took evidence and ran. Mara nodded toward the black stone. It opens my father's private archive. The records inside can prove everything. And the winter hounds. Kargan hired them. Elias stayed into the fire. Mara watched him. You should have left me tied to the tree. No, you don't know what they'll do to you. No, Elias said calmly. You don't know what they'll do. Mara frowned. What does that mean? Before Elias could answer, every bird outside the cabin suddenly took flight. Hundreds of wings beat against the dark sky. Elias stood. Mara whispered, They found us. Elias blew out every candle in the room. The cabin went dark. How many? He asked. Mara listened. I don't know. Elias walked toward the wall. Guess. Maybe 20. He opened a hidden wooden panel. Mara stared at what was inside. Swords, crossbows, throwing knives, maps, old armor, and a black cloak carrying the silver emblem of a wolf pierced by an arrow. Mara knew that symbol. Every soldier in the northern kingdoms knew it. She whispered, Royal Ranger. Elias removed a sword from the wall. Not anymore. Mara stared at him. You were one of the king's shadows. I was younger. The king's shadows destroyed 3 armies without fighting a battle. Stories become larger every winter. They say one ranger crossed the Iron Pass alone and killed the leader of the Winter Hounds. Elias checked the edge of his sword. They were wrong about the killing part. Mara understood. The man standing before her was not a quiet mountain woodsman. He was the reason the hunters outside had changed their tactics. And suddenly she realized something worse. They didn't follow me here. Elias looked at her. Mara whispered, "They used me to find you." A voice came from outside. "Elias Mercer." Mara looked toward the door. Elias did not react. The voice continued. 7 years is a long time. Elias recognized him. Darius Vane. The Winter Hound commander Elias had believed dead. Vane shouted, "Send out the orc girl. Walk away. I'll consider the debt settled." Elias stepped toward the door. Mara grabbed his arm. 20 men. 23. She stared. "How do you know?" 3 are moving through the trees behind us." Mara listened. She heard nothing. Elias continued. 4 near the ridge. 2 archers above them. The rest are waiting for the front door. "How can you possibly know that?" The fire stopped crackling. Mara looked confused. Someone blocked the chimney. Smoke slowly began entering the cabin. Elias smiled without humor. Vane always liked forcing people out. He handed Mara a knife. "Stay behind me." Mara looked offended. "I'm an orc warrior. You couldn't walk 2 hours ago." "I feel better." "Excellent. Feel better quietly." She glared at him. Then the first flaming arrow struck the roof. Elias moved, but not toward the door. He kicked over the table, revealing an iron ring beneath it. "A trapdoor." Mara stared. "You have a tunnel." "I dislike front doors." They descended into darkness as flames spread across the roof. The tunnel led 50 yards behind the cabin. Elias emerged first. 1 hunter stood guard nearby. The man never saw him. Elias caught him from behind, covered his mouth, and lowered him silently into the snow. Mara stared. That was disturbingly fast. "There are 22 now." For the next several minutes, Mara saw why human kings had once feared the king's shadows. Elias never fought fairly. He cut 1 trap line that sent logs crashing across a narrow trail. He moved through snow without leaving visible tracks. He threw stones to draw hunters into false positions. 2 men chased him into the trees and returned running in the opposite direction without their weapons. Mara watched from the ridge. "They're afraid of you." Elias shook his head. "They're afraid of what they imagine I can do." "Is that different?" "Very." A scream echoed from below. Elias winced. Mara raised an eyebrow. "What happened?" "Bear trap." "You said it." "No. Then why are you upset?" "That trap was for a bear." Mara stared at him. Then, despite the danger, she laughed. The sound surprised both of them. Elias smiled. And that was when Darius Vane stepped out of the trees behind her. "Mara." She turned. Too late. Vane struck her knife away and locked an arm around her throat. Elias froze 10 yards away. Darius Vane was older now. A scar crossed half his face where Elias's blade had cut him years before. "You should have checked the ridge," Vane said. Elias stared at him. "I did." Vane smiled. "Not well enough." Elias lowered his sword. Mara struggled. "Don't." Vane pressed a knife to her side. "Drop it." Elias obeyed. The sword fell into the snow. Vane's men emerged from the forest 1 by 1. 9 remained. Vane laughed. "You killed 14 men tonight." Elias looked around. 1 fell into his own trap. "That distinction matters to you." "A little." Vane's smile disappeared. "You ruined my life." "No, I ruined your business. You hunted us across 3 kingdoms. You kidnapped children. We followed contracts. That was always your excuse." Vane tightened his grip around Mara. "And what is your excuse now? You don't know this creature." Elias's eyes hardened. "She has a name." Vane laughed. Mara looked at Elias. Something in her expression changed. No human had ever said that for her. Not like that. Vane continued. "Move aside, Elias. Kagan wants the princess alive." Mara went still. Elias noticed. Vane smiled. "Yes, princess. Alive. Your uncle has prepared a confession for you." Mara's face changed. "What confession?" "That humans kidnapped you, tortured you, forced you to assassinate your father." Elias understood the plan. Kagan would use Mara herself to start the war. Then the black stone she carried would disappear. Vane looked at Elias. This has nothing to do with you. Elias looked at the burning cabin. For 7 years, he had lived alone because he wanted exactly that. Nothing to do with kings. Nothing to do with wars. Nothing to do with people who needed saving. Then he looked at Mara. She was afraid, but she was still fighting, even with a knife against her. Elias smiled. Vane frowned. What? You made one mistake. What mistake? You brought 9 men. Vane laughed. Then Mara drove her elbow into his ribs. The knife moved away from her side for 1 second. 1 second was enough. Elias threw the knife hidden inside his sleeve. It struck Vane's wrist. Mara dropped. Elias moved. The forest exploded into chaos. Mara fought beside him, not behind him. Her strength had returned enough for violence, and she used it with enthusiasm. One hunter rushed her. She hit him with a fallen branch hard enough to lift him off his feet. Elias glanced over. I thought you were weak. I said I felt better. 2 men attacked Elias together. He stepped between them, trapped one sawed arm, turned, and let the first hunter accidentally strike the second. Mara shouted, Was that planned? Mostly. Vane ran toward the horses. Mara saw him. He's escaping. Elias did not chase him. Instead, he picked up a bow. Vane was already 70 yards away. Mara stared. That's impossible. Elias released the arrow. It struck the saddle strap. The leather snapped. Vane fell into the snow. Elias handed the bow to Mara. Your turn. Mara looked almost happy. She walked toward Vane slowly. The remaining hunters saw her coming. None of them followed. Vane tried to crawl backward. You need me alive. Mara stopped. Why? To prove Kagan hired us. Mara considered this. Then she smiled. You're right. Vane relaxed. Mara punched him. He collapsed unconscious. Elias approached. Necessary. No. Understandable. By morning, the fire had destroyed half of Elias's cabin. Mara stood watching smoke rise into the pale sky. I'm sorry. Elias shrugged. I was thinking about adding another room. She looked at him. Your home is gone. It's wood. Your old life is gone. Elias did not answer. That one was true. Mara held the black stone in her hand. I have to return to Gratha. I know. Kagan will have soldiers. I know. My own people may believe I'm a traitor. I know. She turned toward him. You could stay here. Elias looked at the burned cabin. Here. You know what I mean. He did. Mara was giving him a way out. The same way everyone always did. Walk away. Not your war. Not your people. Not your problem. Elias picked up his sword. When do we leave? Mara stared at him. Elias. You can't enter the capital alone. I may be walking into a civil war. Then I'll wear comfortable boots. Mara laughed again, but tears filled her eyes. Why? Elias looked at her. Because someone left you tied to a tree. That is not enough reason to enter an orc kingdom. It was enough reason to stop walking. For a moment, neither spoke. Then Mara stepped forward and pressed her forehead gently against his. An old orc gesture, a warrior's promise. Elias did not understand its meaning. Not yet. But weeks later, when he stood beside Mara before thousands of orcs in the great stone hall, he would. They returned to Gratha with Darius Vane alive. Kagan called Mara a liar, until she opened the royal archive. Records of poison shipments, payments to the winter hounds, secret orders for attacks on human villages. Everything came out. Kagan ordered his guards to arrest her. Not one moved. He ordered them again. Still nothing. Then the oldest orc general in the hall removed his sword and placed it at Mara's feet. One by one, the others followed. Kagan tried to escape. He made it 3 steps. Mara stopped him herself. King Varric survived. Barely. When he recovered, he asked to meet the human who had brought his daughter home. Elias entered the throne room expecting suspicion. The old king studied him for a long time. Then he said, My daughter tells me she found you in the forest. Elias glanced at Mara. She was tied to a tree. The king grunted. So you untied her? Yes. Then you killed her hunters. Some of them. How many? Elias thought. Technically. Mara covered her face. The king started laughing. It echoed through the entire throne room. Then his expression became serious. You entered an orc kingdom for her. Yes. Why? Elias gave the same answer. Someone had to. The king looked at his daughter, then back at Elias. You understand, human, that my daughter performed the forehead bond with you. Elias frowned. The what? Mara suddenly looked horrified. Father. The king smiled. Elias looked at Mara. What is a forehead bond? Nothing. The king laughed harder. It is not nothing. Mara. She turned away. Among the Iron Blood clan, the gesture was given only to the person a warrior trusted above all others. Sometimes a sibling, sometimes a lifelong companion, and sometimes the person they intended to choose as family. Elias stared at her. You might have mentioned that. Mara crossed her arms. You were busy. Walking. Yes. For 3 weeks. You walk slowly. The king laughed until he started coughing. Years later, travelers passing through the northern mountains told a story about a human ranger and an orc princess. Some said Elias Mercer defeated an entire army alone. That was not true. Some said Mara killed 40 hunters with her bare hands. She never corrected that version. The truth was simpler. One winter morning, a tired man found an orc woman tied to a tree. He could have walked away. She even told him to. Instead, he cut the rope. And when the hunters came back, they discovered that the quiet woodsman they had trapped was once the most dangerous tracker in the northern kingdoms. But Elias always said that was not the important part. The important part came earlier, before the swords, before the hunters, before kings and betrayals and wars. It was a moment one stranger looked at another and decided, you don't deserve to be left here alone. And sometimes, that single decision is enough to change 2 kingdoms.